Yeah, they tuned in, it's the Dude Bash, rolling deep. Mic check like that, file, let's hit a beat. Voices flowing like the river, knowledge on the spree. Every episode of Journey, come ride with me. Just hit play, it's a vibe, can't you see? The Dude Bash, we breaking it down. From the underground to the top of the town. Life's effects, intertwined, wearing the crown. Podcast kings and queens, we wearing the gown.
Man, I have been waiting to do these episodes ever since we started doing this thing, and it's the Halloween episodes. So, man, let's kick this thing off right. And we're going to talk about how Halloween was, when we were kids versus how it is now. So, you think about Halloween, all those good times, going around trick-or-treating and all that cool stuff, all the awesome, costumes we had back in the day. But I'll kick this conversation off like this. If you had to pick a difference between Halloween now versus when we were growing up, what would you say the difference is, Daniel? Let's just kick it off with you.
All right, so back then, looking at it from when I was a kid, it seemed like you went trick-or-treating everywhere, right? But now it's more certain neighborhoods has got everything. I don't know what Matt's doing. Anyway.
Yeah, it looks like it's doing yoga, but anyhow.
So
I have been doing yoga lately, though.
So the places that you go trick or treating, that's changed. You've got trunk or treats now. That used to not be a thing whenever we were young. Trunk or treat. You've got the block party. Like in Inglewood, they always had the block party. They didn't have block party back then. When we were kids in the 80s, you put on your $3 paper plastic mask and your costume that you got from Walmart. You probably dressed up like He-Man or one of the Transformers, and you went door to door in your own neighborhood. Sometimes if you had a buddy that lived in another neighborhood, you could hit two neighborhoods. That's what I remember from when I was a kid. There wasn't no going to no corn mazes or no haunted houses, anything like that, because my parents wasn't going to pay the money to do it. So I didn't like. I went to Booger Hill one time and we didn't even get. My dad got pissed off standing in line and said, "This is stupid," and we left.
And have you seen the prices of these haunted houses these days? Back in the day, you used to ride around, or I did anyhow, and you could just ride up the road. You'd find such and such rescue squad doing a haunted trail, then you'd find, so and so doing a haunted trail, $5 a piece. Man, the local one here where we live close to, the Scream Chamber, they're charging $30 a person to go through a haunted, house/trail that probably takes 6 minutes to walk through. Man, these people have lost their minds.
It's the real deal, though.
It ain't that good. I've been through it many times.
No. I'm not talking about the haunted house part. I'm talking about the house before they ever thought about making a haunted house.
Yeah.
Like that place is haunted. Like it's the real deal.
Yeah, well, they need for $30 a person. I need something to pick me up and throw me through a window or something. I mean, I need something to happen. You know what I'm saying?
I need a couple shots or something walking in the door.
Yeah. Daniel, what you gonna have?
No, I was gonna ask. Have you went through what is it, Dead Man's Farm? That's the last one that was local.
I think it's $36 a person now, so I probably won't be going through that one either. But I'll give you a quick story. If these haunted houses, they were used to be one. That's one of the main differences I'll say between now and back then. Was back then you had all the rescue squads and all that good stuff doing these haunted trail stuff to raise money for their equipment and stuff like that. But the Athens rescue squad, the last one I remember, they put on this haunted house, and it was in some old house right there on a street down from the courthouse, right? And I remember walking through that thing, and it was, as a kid, it was so terrifying because you went to this big room and you had 3 doors you had to pick, right? And the door I picked, I don't know what the other 2 doors went to, but the door I picked, I went into this huge room and I immediately fell on this floor of mattresses, right? The entire floor was mattresses, so you couldn't get running. And guess what? Here comes dude with a chainsaw, and you're tripping over all these mattresses that's on the floor. That was the the best haunted house I've ever been through was that one, man. And I wish that they would bring those things back, man. That would have been, that'd be awesome. You know what I'm saying?
I actually remember you telling that story whenever we were kids. And I was like, what haunted house is he going to? I want to go to that one.
Yeah, that thing was bad, son. It was bad.
But was it like 3 doors? See, when you were telling the story a long time ago, it seemed like it didn't matter which of the 3 doors you picked. You opened up into that same room.
Yeah, they all probably went to the same place. It just made you think you had a choice, but they all probably went to the same place. Yeah.
Right. That's cool though. But like you talking, you open up the door, you walk into the room, and it's like a drop off, and you fall on the mattresses. But it'd be hard to do something like that nowadays because of the insurance for it. Because you got somebody that falls the wrong way and somebody breaks their leg or something, you'd have to get waivers or something that people would have to sign to do something.
You definitely have to sign. Yeah, you definitely have to sign a waiver. Before we get going tonight, I forgot to announce or tell everybody that Dusty's not with us tonight, but Daniel's oldest son Brent has decided to join us. So Brent, tell everybody hi, buddy.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Thanks for letting me on. I've listened to all the episodes, so I like listening to them.
Yeah, we try to have a good time. So, but your dad was telling me, man, that you might have a cool story you want to tell us. You want to do that now, or you want to wait a little bit later?
Oh, we can wait a little bit later for that one, but it is a pretty cool story.
All right, well, we'll get into it here in just a little bit. Matt, what was something, I don't know, did you celebrate Halloween growing up, or was you just, not do it? I don't remember many Halloween memories with you.
No, we did it, man. Me and Daniel always went out on Halloween. I remember the last Halloween night that we trick-or-treated. You remember that?
I'd say it probably somewhere around 7th or 8th grade, wasn't it? I remember that one night, that one Halloween, we ended up walking over to Justin Lee's neighborhood over in Connor Addition.
That's where you went to get all the good candy around here, man.
You hit our neighborhood because what you did was you went to Dusty's Mamaw, which was right across the street. Then you went to, my mama always handed out candy. You went over to Bree's great-grandmother's house. She always had good apples. She'd give you apples. You went over to my mom's neighborhood. And keep in mind, this is before the block party started. So you would hit all of the houses in my mom's neighborhood because we knew who all them people were. But then on a normal basis, you were pretty much done because that was in your little area. So the one year that what Matt was talking about, we went over to Justin Lee's house, and there's probably 20 houses or more in that neighborhood in Connor Addition.
Yeah,
and
probably
that was good stuff. That's where you got like the full candy bars. They didn't skimp out with the fun size bull crap. They gave you whole candy bars.
Yeah, I remember that's where, if you were, stranded in Inglewood and that's the only place you had to go trick or treat, everybody tried to get over to Connor's Addition. I always called it Connor's Condition. But yeah, that was the quote unquote good candy neighborhood in Inglewood.
Yep, that's where you want.
Travis, you grew up in Etowah. It's about 7 miles up the road from us. What was your little Halloween tradition you had growing up?
I never even trick-or-treated in my neighborhood. I always went to, I always walked to 8th Street and 9th Street. That's where all my buddies lived, where I'd go play and run around when it wasn't Halloween. So I'd hit the houses in between 8th Street. I grew up on Athens Pike, so it's about 3 blocks back before you get to 1st Street, So I walked about 8-9 blocks, hit all the houses between there, and then go up 8th and 9th Street, and then walk back, hit the ones on either Washington Avenue or Pennsylvania Avenue. I usually walk down Pennsylvania Avenue to get to 8th Street, 9th Street, and then I'd come back Washington Avenue.
Yeah, Etowah was always cool, man. One thing about it, Inglewood, I don't know, this town, back in the day, you'd see kids everywhere trick-or-treating. They do the block party now for all the kids, but honestly, it gets, in my opinion, worse every year, because when they first started that block party. It was awesome, man. They even had a little haunted trail set up over there beside the tennis courts and all that good stuff. And now it's just it's not any good at all. But so then
back
go ahead.
then though, you could just let your kids go out and go trick or treat. I mean, we never had any issues growing up trick or treating. I mean, nobody ever got in any fights or anything. I mean, that was like Armistice Day. You know, we don't fight on Halloween. We all trying to get candy and sugar diabetes.
Everybody trying to get days, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you might go roll a house or something, but
Yeah.
that was after you secured the candy on the way back home. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what I was saying is when my kids were coming up, we had started migrating to Etowah because Etowah got to be the place where all the people were trick-or-treating at and stuff like that. And what's that subdivision over there across from
Seven Cedars.
Seven Cedars? That's, yeah, man, you had to park on the highway and walk in there because that's where everybody was at. Daniel, what do you think, buddy?
Brent had his hand raised.
Oh, my bad. I didn't see you, Brent.
He was
Oh,
probably
you're fine.
he's probably going to mention Seven Cedars because that's where we always took the kids whenever he was little.
Well, I was just gonna say, so you asked first, you know, how is Halloween different now than it was when we were kids? And obviously, I'm a lot younger than you guys. So, like, I was a kid during the early 2000s, like 2010s, you know, and I just don't see many people trick or treating now. We've had candy outside of our apartment the last 2 years. We haven't had one single person.
Really?
Yeah, and we live in a apartment complex. I think that most people go like trunk or treating now, or like the block parties you were saying. But trick or treating, I mean, even when I was a kid, trick or treating was already starting to kind of go downhill a little bit. We would go to Seven Cedar subdivision, but I mean, I think it would be cool to go back in times when you guys were kids, just to go street by street, door to door, like to actual people's houses on regular streets, go trick or treating that way. That sounds cool.
Go
Yep.
ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is I agree totally with you, Brent, man. It's like a lost art that we're going through right now. But I'll say this. If you want to see what an old time Halloween's supposed to look like, bring yourself to Sweetwater. I don't know what it is about this town, but they go all out for every holiday that comes around. And if you'll drive to Sweetwater on Halloween, it'll look like something from 1985. These streets are full of kids. I mean, they're everywhere. You about
Yeah,
have to car.
And it don't matter what street you go to either. They're always up there full.
Yeah, I'll tell you, even tonight, my wife and kids took our two dogs down to the town square. They had this thing called Halloween, Howl, and it was a Halloween for the dogs, man. And I'm sure she's put pictures on Facebook, but yeah, this whole town came together. Everybody's dogs dressed up like Halloween, you know, monsters, and they're all down there taking pictures and stuff like that. Sweetwater, I'll say this, Sweetwater still, for the most part, you know, tries to keep things like they was when we was growing up. And that's one thing I like about this town. It's a little further away from everybody, but Sweetwater still makes an effort to keep the community thing going, you know?
Yeah.
So, Matt, when we were coming up, you know, those little cheap plastic costumes we all got, everybody looked like a serial killer in them. Do you remember one that stood out that you would say, hey man, this was my favorite costume?
I don't remember anything like that. I mean, I always had to like use just whatever because we didn't have money to go out and buy costumes. So I usually end up dressing up like some zombie or, you know, a half-assed Dracula or some
Mama makeup on.
yeah, something stupid shit. So I don't know. I never had anything good. So I saw other kids that had like those hot plastic masks and those garbage bag costumes.
Yeah.
But I didn't have anything like that.
Go ahead, Daniel.
That's what I was going to say, Matt. Some years I did my own costume. You always had the if you wanted to go and spend less money, you could get some of that makeup. You always had the white face paint with the red lines, and you could be Dracula with the fake teeth. You know, you can get out of that for $2 or $3. But you had yeah, you were talking about them plastic costumes with the plastic mask that came around and cut your eyelids when you try to put them on and all that. So I was specifically, I distinctly remember being He-Man one time. It was probably early to mid 80s. I was G.I. Joe. I was one year I was it just said G.I. Joe, and it was just the normal, he had like a green helmet with it wasn't an actual character. But then the one year I was Duke, I found a Duke costume. So that was
I
3.
bet you look like a freaking serial killer in that dang thing.
Yeah. But that's, as far as them kind of costumes, I never did really have a whole lot of them. That's 3 that I remember. But I remember, like, I just put on some old clothes at one year, and I went as like a hobo or something. It was something stupid. Brent, do you remember any of your costumes?
I mean, I was thinking while you were saying that, I would say the most memorable was probably the Wolfman costume. I dressed up as Frankenstein one year. When I was really little, I did the whole makeup thing where I was a cat because I was scared of my skeleton costume. So,
Yeah,
I think one year I was a zombie.
The
Yeah,
last
when
plastic
coming up,
little
man.
mask, the last mask I wore that was plastic, the ones that cut your eyelids and make you have to get a blood transfusion and all that before you went home, was the Gremlin one. It come out. It was like 1984, 1985. After that, I went on like a 37-year row of being Dracula, because then you just had to paint your face white. I already had the widow's peak, believe it or not. There's nothing there now, but you just had to throw the fake teeth in there, and I was good to go. I didn't have to like sweat to the oldies in my little plastic mask.
I was definitely a vampire, probably more times than any, just because of the ease of it. It was just easy.
Yeah,
Yeah, you didn't have to sweat.
speaking of ease of dressing up like a character, I can remember one time they would actually allow us to go to school dressed up like stuff back in the day, man. And I remember we pulled up. My mom was dropping me off at school, and this was probably the same year as I worked the nunchucks at school that year. It was probably like 3rd grade or something like that. And I remember we pulled up to school, and you could see everybody going in with little Halloween costumes and stuff like that. And I remember I was like, dang, I didn't dress up, man. Mom's like, well, here, let's do this. So don't ask me how I got like a cape or whatever on. Somehow I had a vampire cape.
You just
And-
what happened to have one in the back seat.
I mean, maybe I was going as a vampire and I had my costume in the car or something like that. I don't know. But anyhow, she painted my face up like a vampire and used lipstick to make blood on me and stuff like that. And I went in, and again, just like with the nunchucks, they thought I was so awesome, and they paraded me around to each room and showed me off to everybody in that freaking school, man. God. But, that's how I rolled back in them days. So, Travis, you've been awful quiet. Did you enjoy Halloween growing up?
Yeah, I always had fun. I mean, we were.
Was you into mischief instead of trick or treating?
No, I was more into getting candy, man. I mean, because I walked everywhere anyway. I mean, it wasn't like Halloween was probably just like any other day, except I got to carry a big garbage bag around and say trick or treat. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
I walked all over town all the time. Usually I was on a bicycle, but I didn't take the bicycle trick or treating. I did, however, when I was a junior in high school, take my car trick or treating. And that was, I had a whole lot more energy afterward and a whole lot more candy because I could hit the whole town.
Go ahead, Brent.
Here's what I want to know. Do you guys think that there should be a limit? What's the limit on trick or treating? Or do you think there should be one on
I don't
the
think-
age?
I don't think there should ever be a limit on trick or treat, man. If somebody shows up on my doorstep and they're 40 years old, I'm giving them some candy, baby. That's what I
Okay,
feel.
Only if it's Halloween, no.
Yeah.
So I
only
was like, well, yeah, I had a random person walk on Christmas morning. She was like a 40-year-old lady was like, "Hey, can I?" I was working nights. It was like 4 a.m. She knocks on the door. I open. I was like, "Hello," and she's like, "Hey, can I come inside real quick?" I was like, "No, no." She's like, "Well, can I just use your phone?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, you can use my phone." She's like, "Okay, can I have some money?" It's like, "No."
Good Lord. That reminds me of the time this chick come up on my back porch at 4 o'clock in the morning, want me to take her to the laundry, man. I'm like, I ain't taking you to the laundry, man. Get off my porch, man.
Oh, but what I was going to say about trick or treating, though, I brought that up because I was like 11 or 12 years old. Uh, I don't even know what I was. Probably the Frankenstein thing again. But I go up to this old lady's house, and she's like, "You're a little old to be trick or treating, don't you think?" She didn't give me any candy.
Whoa,
I was like,
Crazy.
I go back up to Dad. I was like, say, "Hey, he's gonna back me up here." "I told you you're too old. I mean, what do I say?"
Oh, man. Way to have it back, Daniel. Sweet.
Having no old woman pull no pistol on me trying to get a candy bar. Screw
Why
that.
didn't you put? Why didn't you put your ski mask on and pull your pistol though and be like, "Look, he was gonna get a piece. I want the whole candy. I want all of it."
I should have. I'm a bad dad.
Yeah, that's
I'll
terrible, man. You'll probably go to hell for that one, Daniel.
Yeah. Yeah, you just bought yourself another level, Daniel. I hope you enjoy it.
I suck. I suck bad.
But you know what hell's going to be for that? It's going to be you wearing one of them damn plastic masks, sweating your ass to death.
Not getting no candy, even though I'm asking for it.
You can see it, you just can't reach it.
Yeah. And they're like, "You
It's a
too old."
repetition. It's a repetition of going to that lady's house and begging for candy. You get turned down every time.
It's sugar-free candy.
Yeah, and she hurts your feelings every time.
Well, when you were a baby, Brent, we took you, it was in Ann's old neighborhood. My aunt, and she lived in Etowah, but she lived way out in the boondocks. And they lived in this subdivision. And the house next door, we dressed him up like as a lobster or something. It was funny. But anyway, he was in the stroller. I pushed him up to the door there and said, "Trick or treat." And that woman answered the door and she said, "That baby can't eat no candy." And she closed the door. And that was it. That was the whole conversation. I was like, all right.
Yeah, I remember. Speaking of candy, Daniel, I remember one time we was all out to eat, man, and your kids was real young, and some waitress come up to her and she's like, "Can he have this candy?" or something like that. And you went, "Are you going to pay for it?" I was like, "Oh my God."
I don't think he would ask that question.
Yeah. He's like, "I ain't buying no candy. He can have it if you're paying for it."
I don't
Oh,
remember that
man.
at all.
I don't even know what restaurant we was at, man, but all the kids was still real little, man. You was like, I'm not paying for it." She was like,
Cheap bastard.
"Oh man," but y'all heard me tell my story about the haunted house up there in Athens. You guys got any cool stories, those haunted trails, man? I tell you, that's my favorite thing, man. I just wish they weren't so expensive these days, but have y'all ever been through any good ones? Anybody?
Oh,
I went to Booger Hill once. The only time I ever went, Dad took me. We stood in line, like Daniel was saying, it's about a 4-mile line, so we stood there and went through that. I was about 12, maybe 13. I was walking through there and I thought, man, this sucks. Ain't nothing scary, nothing. We're walking through there. Well, it's done. Dad's like, "How'd you like this?" Man, I thought it was terrible. Well, then I hear a chainsaw start and Jason jumps out from behind a tree. And all I remember from then is trees look like picket fences because I was running that fast through the woods. Dad had to run me down, bring me back to the truck. I was gone, son. Everybody for themselves. I'm out.
I got two things. So the first is, once you've been to Universal Halloween Horror Nights, like, that's they put so much money into that. They've got all of the costuming, all of the artwork, all the rigging with the sound effects and the lights, man. They're not jumping out just to scare you. They're jumping out on cue, going with the music. I mean,
Right.
they've got it down to a science. So once you've been to Halloween Horror Nights, man, that's like the best I've ever been to. I mean, they've got really nice artwork. All of the makeup work, it's like professionally done. But the second thing that I was going to say is back when Brent was in high school, we went through Judgment Day at Mayfield's.
That one was always good. That one was always good, man. I wish they still had it.
Day, and we got to the end of it too, you know, and we're all laughing and everything, and we're like out of it. Okay, you come out of the corn, you've already went through all that stuff, and we're like looking at people walking around doing the stuff. So we're thinking we're done, and then just like what Travis said, we heard chainsaws, not one but 2 or 3 chainsaws, and all of a sudden they come out of the corn at us. Well, they go straight for Brent. Okay, so what does Brent do? He's got his girlfriend with him. He pushes her down to the ground, steps over her, and takes off running. Okay, that's like breakup right there for me. But okay, whatever. He pushes her down, and they take off chasing him.
God, go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, I would do it again. I would do it again today. I don't like chainsaws. I don't like chainsaws.
You do what you got to do. And a funny story that I know exactly where you're talking about in that trail, because the last time I went through it, my youngest son, Braden, he was probably 4 or 5. So we thought he was too young to go through it. So him and his sister waited on us. You know, they had that little playground and stuff while we went through it. And as we were coming out, you know, they ran, you know, it was on a hill. I think there's a hill you come up as you come out of it. And Braden and Breeley was running down that hill because they seen us coming. They was running to meet us. Well, by that time, here come the chainsaw guys, and they took off after my little 4-year-old son. Dude, they were chasing him up the hill, and all I could do was laugh. Oh man, I swear, I think it scarred him for life, man, because he ain't been the same since.
Was he crying?
Yeah.
Did it make you cry?
Yeah, it terrified him, man. It scarred him.
That's wrong, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
Go ahead, Brent.
Yeah.
So my favorite, I haven't been to very many haunted houses, but probably my favorite's Dead Man's Farm. I like it because it has a story that goes along with it. So it's like you start off in the first room, and it's telling a story, and as you go through the house, it progresses. I like that. It's like you're in a little movie.
Yeah, I've never been through that one. If it wasn't freaking $36 a person, I'd try to go through it.
It's even more if you want to do the haunted corn maze. I think it's like close to $60 a person.
God, that's insane. Hey man, guess what? The big cat has joined us.
Big cat in the house.
About freaking time. Sorry about that, guys. Extraordinary technical difficulties.
Well, hey Dusty, let me catch you up real quick, buddy. Let me just go ahead and start with this. We have talked about the difference between Halloween back when we was growing up versus now. And we've talked about, you know, haunted trails we went through. But hey, what do you think the best difference is between growing up and now Halloween wise? What do you think?
For me, I think it's the fact that when we were young and we were going out trick or treating, I don't think we had as much. We were actually able to go out and kind of enjoy it. Like it was no big deal for, you know, a group of us, or you see a group of kids with no adults around whatsoever, just running around from house to house. You know, past a certain age, it was all right. Go get the candy. You know, we'll see you back here in an hour.
Right.
And you know, now, you know, we've lived in this house now for almost 2 years, and this will be our second Halloween here. But I lived in some apartments here in Loudon for almost 5 years, and I never had a single trick or treater.
And that's what Brent was saying about his apartment.
I mean, you just don't see kids out anymore, and moms and dads, unless it's there are certain neighborhoods, you know, like Windsong and Sweetwater and that kind of stuff, or down on Mays Avenue, where it's so crowded and stuff, you can't really do anything. For the most part, I mean, just the neighborhood door-to-door trick-or-treating, I mean, it's just kind of, for no pun intended, but it's kind of dead.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about. I asked that question because I was wondering how your your take on it would match ours, and you have the same take on it as the rest of us do, man. It's like trick or treating is just it's trying to go away, man. And I was telling them Sweetwater, here it still goes on and it's still pretty cool, but I could see it going away in 4 or 5 years. Everybody's going to do these block parties and all that stuff. And to me, that just ain't the same, man. I'd rather see kids trick or treating any day,
Well, and I think the problem is too is that I don't think it's any less. I don't know if it's any less safe now than it was back when we were kids, but it just small town like we grew up in. I mean, you kind of knew the people. Hey, I'm going to go over there to the Johnson's house. No. Let's stay away from there. Their son's a little. Let's go over here to the Millers or whatever.
Yeah, they could hit bull.
or they got they got that that uncle living with them. Hey, we don't want to. Yeah, don't go back around. He's got his van. He's trying to put windows in it, but he like you said, I think it was a little bit more innocent time too, for us, because you couldn't just go online and say, okay, well, you've got this person living down here and they've got this and they're convicted of that, and it seems like it's a lot less fun. Plus, everybody's trying to capitalize on it. You've got Boo at the Zoo in Boo at the Zoo in Knoxville. You've got the street parties and the block parties and stuff where people can keep an eye on their kids, because it's just maybe it's just not as safe to go run around like it used to be.
Go ahead, Daniel.
All right, so it kind of leads into a question I was going to ask is, when, in y'all's opinion, do you think Halloween started to change? And I'll give you my opinion now. In 1999, I worked at Howell Trailer, and I believe it was that year Halloween fell on a Sunday. And for some reason, there was a whole lot of stuff that was in the DPA back then about Halloween being on Sunday, and it was like an uproar with local churches and stuff. And from that point on, I saw myself a big decrease in trick-or-treating like we remember it back from the 80s and the 90s, and I saw more of a push with the whole trunk-or-treat thing that was being sponsored by churches. So in my opinion, I think that Halloween started to fall out somewhere around 1999 or so, but I don't know, that could just be my opinion. Did y'all guys see the same thing around the same time, or was it different? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you see it? Do you guys? I mean, and to add to your question, do you kind of see it as maybe like a second wave of or maybe even a third wave of the satanic panic that we all that we saw with music and stuff when we were growing up, where you had Tipper Gore and they were dragging Dee Snider and all the rest of them in there, and this just been a continuation of it, where a lot of the churches have been railing against it for years, saying, oh, it's a satanic holiday and blah, 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 and all this other kind of stuff. And
go ahead, Brent.
I just think it's a little funny because Halloween is traditionally a Christian holiday. Like, that's where it started, was a Christian holiday. And it's even still it's still kind of a holiday in Catholicism. All Saints Day, November 1st. That's All Hallows Eve goes into that. It's just funny that it's kind of turned into, on the more traditional side, it's turned into kind of like a Satanist thing, when that's not where it started. It's kind of charitable, with the giving of the candy and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, here's how I see it, man. And I've already seen the post on Facebook and all that stuff. No Christian should be celebrating Halloween, and you shouldn't dress your kids up as demons and all that stuff. And I'll say it like this, man. I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I consider myself a born again Christian. But you know what? I don't see a thing wrong with Halloween, because I don't view it as a satanic holiday. I view it as my kids dressing up as little spooky things and going and trick or treating and making memories. That's how I see it. A lot of times people and your so-called Christians will God, what's the word looking for? Make something too religious, you know?
Over dramatized.
Yeah, well, you know, not everything has to be, you know, I may get some slack about this, but not everything's got to be about religion. Some things just have a good time. You know what I'm saying?
No
Yeah.
pun intended, but amen.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, and trust me, you know, we've had these conversations before. I believe in God and, you know, wholeheartedly, but you know what? There's nothing wrong with going trick or treating. Now, I wouldn't let my kids, you know, sit down with a Ouija board and start doing spell incantations and stuff like that. But, you know, if we want to dress up like a ghost and go trick or treating, I see no problem with that. You know what I'm saying?
Go ahead, Matt.
Well, it's the same. It's these same people that they cherry pick holidays because if you get down to it, Christmas trees are pagan, but everybody does Christmas trees, but nobody says anything about Christmas trees.
Because it's
So
Christmas.
I bring that up, and I've brought that up to a lot of the ultra religious people, and they've gotten really pissed off at me, and I'm not allowed back in their house. And I'm like, well, go check your history because Christmas trees are pagan.
Yeah.
Christmas trees are pagan. Bunny rabbits are pagan. Eggs are pagan. I mean, almost every holiday on the Christian calendar is a co-option of a pagan holiday because they were trying to proselytize and convert the heathen, so to speak.
But what happens is you get Halloween that gets caught up in a generational thing where you get these religious, these ultra religious people who pass that down to their kids. You know, I've known people that were never allowed to celebrate Halloween growing up, and I know people that I work with who are adults that weren't allowed to do it because their family thought it was a satanic holiday, and I'm like, it's not. I was like, it's definitely not. I mean, if you look at some of the Christmas stuff that you guys celebrate, it's straight up paganism too.
Well, there's also the flip side of that coin where the kids that are our age that used to go out trick or treat just like what we did, okay? Now they're the parents that are going, oh no, that's satanic. My kids aren't
Exactly.
my kids are gonna do that. See, that's bull crap too. But Brent, you had your hand raised. Go ahead, bud.
No, that's what Matt said was basically what I was going to say. It's every culture has done a little bit of that. Yes, Christmas, Easter, Halloween, those are all originally pagan holidays. But when Christianity became the main religion of Rome, they changed those holidays to Christianize, they Christianized them. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That does not mean that the holidays we celebrate now are pagan. That's just originally on the same date was a pagan holiday. So I really don't understand that argument when I hear that.
Right.
I never have, and I'll be honest with everybody on here. I went to a church. This was back when my kids, Jason's 21 now, and he was probably 4 or 5 at this time. And I had a pastor stand up at the pulpit and was like, you ought to be ashamed to dress your child up like a ghost or something like that and take them trick or treating. And I'll be straight with you. My family and I, we got up and walked out right then. And I've never been back to that church since because I just don't believe that way. Now, if they want to believe that way, that's fine. But, that's just not how I believe. And I've never seen anything wrong with Halloween. We got Matt.
Oh no, that's just what I was saying too. I mean, it's Halloween. Halloween is a time, at least for me, for especially when you're an adult, to be a kid again.
Exactly.
And what it is, it's a generational push for you to never lose that kid-like wonder. Even though the world is a lot harder than it was back when we were roaming the streets, I think back then it was still dangerous. I mean, it was dangerous as hell kids walking around. Nobody knew where we was at. There's no cell phone. Some freak could pull up and grab you. That's it. Because, I almost got kidnapped in broad daylight back in the 90s. So I can imagine, if I had that wherewithal walking down the street at night in a costume with a bunch of guys, you don't ever know what was going to happen back then. But we didn't think about that. But as we become parents, we started thinking about that because there's no way I let my kids do the stuff I did growing up.
Lord, no.
There's no chance. They're, the kids in this generation, our kids, did not get a chance to live like we did. And I think that's hindered them in some way, but then in other ways it hasn't. But I think
Yeah.
Halloween is one of those things where if you get a chance like me, I dress up like a Ghostbuster. You know, I'm doing it again this year. I couldn't do that growing up because I didn't have the money and I didn't have the means or anything like that. But I'll be damned at a 47-year-old man, I'm going to be doing it.
Exactly. How you
That's
take?
what Halloween is about. It's about
Yeah.
being a kid again.
I know.
And
At the,
staying a kid as you're a kid.
at the block party this year, I think me, Matt, and Daniel, and whoever else wants to come can come. But I think we're going to go to the block party. We're all going to dress up. You know, I'm 46 years old. I'm going to dress up like a little, I don't know what I'm going to be, but he's scary looking. All right, I can go do that this Halloween and I can have a good time and you know, we'll take pictures and we can have a great time. But like if I do that any other time of the year, I'm going to get arrested. See? But like, you know,
Unless you're at a Comic-Con.
but you know, any other time I'm going to get handcuffs put on me. But you know, during Halloween, everybody's going to come up and say how cool I look, or you know, vice versa. But yeah, man, Halloween's always been my favorite holiday, and they probably always will. I love the jack-o'-lanterns. Like this weekend, Saturday night, my family's going to carve jack-o'-lanterns. You know, that's one of I talk about Halloween traditions, and you guys can tell you if you got any traditions, you can tell about them here in a minute. But we all sit down and we carve jack-o'-lanterns, and we have a little contest to see who does the best jack-o'-lantern every year. That's my favorite tradition I have with my family. Brent, did you guys have any traditions like that growing up or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we always carve jack-o'-lanterns too. The main tradition I remember is going to that subdivision. We would trick or treat there every year, and we would go to the block party. And so we kind of had our little routine. We would go to, I can't remember which ones we would do first, but I think we would go trick or treating at the subdivision first. Then we would go to Mimi's house, which is right next to Matt's house, and then we would just go to the block party down at the park. So those were kind of the traditions.
Yeah, get them free hot dogs from the Church of God, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
I will say we've been talking about the differences and we've been talking about how Halloween is kind of slacked off over the years, but I will say in about the last probably 2 or 3 years, you know, I think I credit Spirit Halloween for kind of helping put Halloween back in the limelight. There's a whole lot more, maybe it's social media too, but there's a whole lot more people, it looks like, that's starting to celebrate Halloween again. And I think that's a cool thing. Seems like there's, you know, like you've got the Spirit Halloweens that are going, and you got a bunch of people that's on Facebook with different groups and stuff. I'm in a bunch of different Halloween groups. I think that Halloween is starting to make somewhat of a comeback. I don't think that it's ever going to get back to the 1980s again or the 1990s, how Halloween was, but I do think that it's making a little bit of a comeback, and I like it.
Well, it's more of a controlled environment now than it was back then, because now you can control it with block parties and all this other stuff, where back then it was just free play. You just roaming. It's more organized now.
I see that too. Go ahead, Brent. You had your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to ask, where are all the Spirit Halloweens? In Knoxville, there is not a single Spirit Halloween right now. I agree with your point, though. I think Halloween is becoming a lot more mainstream now, and you can see that with the horror movie releases. I think they're getting better now than they were 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, where are the Spirit Halloweens? There's not a single one in Knoxville.
I don't know where they're at in Knoxville, man, but they're in.
Usually wherever JCPenney used to be.
Yeah, basically.
Well, I've been to the one in Cleveland this year, but I could have swore there was one in Knoxville. That's crazy. Party City's got some good stuff. If you've ever been in Party City, they got probably just as much as Spirit Halloween. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up just to see. But I think whenever you look it up, I think it just says permanently closed.
So there's
I'm gonna-
two that's in Knoxville, but we ain't found them yet. You would think that Turkey Creek would have one, but Turkey Creek don't.
Because they ain't got no empty stores.
That's yeah.
You know it? But you know what? You know what my favorite thing about Halloween is? And this is probably one of the reasons Brent has joined us tonight, is to sit around and tell good old fashioned ghost stories. And I'm pretty sure Brent says he's got a good story he wants to share with us tonight, buddy. So go ahead and kick that off for us, Brent, and let's see if you can get us all scared before we go to bed tonight.
Okay, so I do have a scary story. So it's about a lighthouse in Scotland, okay? And so this is in the Flannan Isles. I think the name of it is I'm trying to look up the actual name of the island. But anyway, so there's these 3 lighthouse keepers. This is back in the early 1900s. So there's lighthouse keepers. They have to go and stay. So there's 3 of them, and all of them are veterans. They're very meticulous with keeping records. And there's this one guy that has a journal, and he journals in it every night. And so I think it was like 1 month on, 1 month off. So when the last crew drops the 3 guys off at the island, the other 3 guys leave for a month. So 3 weeks pass, everything's fine. But that last week, people start noticing that, hey, the light's not on at the lighthouse. Something's kind of off. And so they go to the island. They come early because they want to make sure that the 3 guys are fine. So they go to the island, and they, right off the bat, they notice that there's some strange things. Number one is one of the railings has actually fallen over. So I thought that was a little bit weird. But besides that, nothing. There's no structural damages. Nothing too odd except for one of the railings. They go inside. They notice that the guy's shoes are still inside of the lighthouse. But what's weird is they notice that the beds are unmade. They notice that they've left food plates on the table. And these are things that they were told never to do. Like it was kind of like the military. When they woke up, they were supposed to make their beds. They were supposed to put the plates back and clean them and stuff. So all that was kind of odd. And the strangest thing is the 3 guys weren't there. They were not on the island. And so people start trying to look for them. And they find a notebook. They find the guy's journal next to his bed. So they start reading through the journal. And the first couple weeks, the guy's normal. The journal entries are what you would imagine. But the 3rd week, it starts getting weird. And so the guy starts talking about this big storm that he knows that's brewing. He said that the seas are starting to get crazy. He said that there's strange occurrences on the island that scares him. And the last journal entry, he starts praying, and he's like, hey, I'm scared for my life. The storm is crazy. I want God to save us. And he's like, he starts saying that if he doesn't make it out alive, let his family know that he loves them, stuff like that. And that's the last journal entry. And so what makes this story crazy is there was no storm. There was no storm on that island that month. They know that because, first of all, the sailors told them, but also they had people off on the coast the whole time, and there was never a storm. And the bodies have never been found. They don't know where the bodies went. And so it seems like there's obviously different theories. The official report is that there was a big wave that came and washed them off. But what's weird about that is all of their shoes were still inside. And so if they were outside, why would they not have their shoes on? So the theory that I hear a lot, that I kind of lean towards, is the guy that wrote the journal entries went crazy and killed the other 2. And so they actually made a movie. It's slightly based off this. It's called The Lighthouse. It's an A24 film. But yeah, they believe, or I personally believe, that guy killed the other 2, and then he just kills himself by drowning him in the ocean. But it's a creepy case. They don't know what happened to the guys. There's obviously a lot of paranormal stuff that they say happens on that island now. There's a lot of ghost hunts there and stuff. But the last odd tidbit, now that you know all of that information, is when the 3 sailors came back to the island to search, there was 3 crows on top of the fence post that fell over, and they each squawked, and then they flew off. And those 3 birds, there's always 3 birds that kind of circle the island now that people think's a little weird. So
Wow, that's crazy because crows are supposed to carry the soul to the other side or something like that. That's what people say. But what year was that supposed to have taken place in?
it was in the early 1900s. So it was back.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a long time ago, but relatively, it ain't like it was like 400 or 500 years ago.
Was that that same movie that had like Willem Dafoe and Daniel Radcliffe in it?
Yeah, it has Willem Dafoe in it. I don't know if it's
That was a good movie.
And Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson. Was it Robert Pattinson or Daniel Radcliffe?
Robert
Pattinson. Robert Pattinson.
You sure?
I'm positive, bro.
Because he did that right before before he started training for the Batman.
That's hilarious. I love how you guys know the
Prove me
key
right, man.
to the movie and all this stuff, and I'm sitting here like I've never heard of the movie.
But well, you know why? Because you be watching, the 3 Haunted Ninjas or something, and we don't watch that stuff. We want Oscar-nominated films, pal.
We want something that's going to pique our interest.
Yeah.
But
So,
now that I told this story, I know that you guys are going to tell stories sometime. But I do want to ask this, since we're talking about Halloween, I want to hear creepy stories, Halloween based, that you guys have had, like personally, if you have any.
let's see. Like
I don't have any.
I'll tell you this one. It's a real quick one. This happened probably when I was 11 or 12 years old. I lived in Etowah at the time, and my grandmother had passed away probably a couple years beforehand, maybe 2 years beforehand, right? And so I was up in this, we had a house in Etowah, and I was in my bedroom asleep, and I had my aunt and uncle was there staying with us. So they were in my bedroom because they had taken my bed, and I was sleeping on the couch in the living room. Well, I had this blanket that I was covering up with, right? But it was one of those blankets, like you could hold it up and you could kind of see the lights through it and everything. It was kind of thin. Well, we was laying there in bed one night. Let me back up for a second. My grandmother, before she died, had had a stroke, and her right side kind of didn't work right, but she could still walk. And when she'd walk, she kind of drag her right foot, as every step she'd take, she'd drag that foot. Well, I was laying there that night asleep. Well, I wasn't asleep. I was laying there, and I had the blanket over me, and I had my legs holding it up, and I was trying to make a tent while I was laying there, right? But I tell you what, as I could, laying there, I could see down the hallway, and I had that blanket over me, and I had my legs sticking out holding it up, and I could see through the blanket. And I looked over and I seen her leg and her whole body walk across that hallway into the other room. I even heard her foot slide across the floor, because every time she'd step, she'd slide that foot because she couldn't really pick that leg up. So I seen her and I heard it. And I tell you what, I jumped up off that couch and I ran as fast as I could and jumped into bed with my aunt and uncle. And I didn't leave their side till in the morning. But
That's creepy.
it scared the crap out of me, dude. And I tell you what, that really happened, bro. And I don't know, like my grandmother had been dead long enough to where, like, I wasn't laying there thinking about it. She'd been dead for 2 years, But I seen it and I never will forget it, man. Never will forget it.
The only time that I can say that if it was a ghost, okay, I can't explain what I saw. But the only time that I can actually remember that I distinctly seen something that I cannot explain was that day when me and you and Matt, I don't know if Dusty was with us or Travis was with us or not, but it was a bunch of us playing football in that field right beside the apartments, Cherokee Hill Apartments. And this woman that lived on a second-story apartment had apparently freaked out, said that she saw something or whatever.
We were
And
sitting there on the front porch when she came walking up, remember?
I remember standing in the field and we were talking about how whatever it was that she saw, she freaked out and she wasn't there no more. Anyway, we knew for sure nobody was in the apartment.
Exactly.
And as we were talking, there was a shape that was the upper torso of a human body. It was transparent. The window was kind of blacked out, you just couldn't see very far into the room. And so when that shape come across, it kind of, I don't know, I want to say that it was, it's like it wasn't white, but you could see distinctly what the shape was. Okay. And it was a head, shoulders, what looked like the upper torso, and it looked like you could see through it. And while we were talking about that, that thing come out from one side of the window, stood in the window and looked at us for several seconds. And I'm like, okay, does everybody see what I'm seeing? And everybody was like, yeah, okay. And everybody described it the same way back then. After a few seconds, this thing walks out of the view of the window and nobody ever saw it again. And that, I don't, if it was a cleaning person, okay, and we just happened to freak ourselves out, okay, fine, I won't argue that. But as far as we know, nobody was in that apartment. So that was something that I cannot explain what I saw.
Well, that lady, when that happened, we were sitting on my front porch and she had came walking up the road all cut up and shit. And me and Daniel looked at
Was
it.
I there, or was that just you and Daniel that time?
No, me and Daniel were sitting there because it was during summertime. We saw her. She was like talking.
Yeah.
And she was walking up the road all bloody and stuff. And we're like, what the hell's going on here? So we didn't know where she came from because we didn't see the direct, we knew she came from up that direction, but we didn't know where she was at. We go down to his grandmother's and Dusty's grandmother's, and the police are already there. And she had busted out the second story window.
Yeah.
And jumped out. She was on drugs from what we had found out, but I never saw anything up there. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember seeing anything what Daniel saw. I don't remember.
We was
all there, right? Yeah, we was all there, and I remember that happening. I also remember you telling about her running up the road that day. I didn't know if I was there or not, but I can remember we all got freaked out when we was in that field that day. I remember.
I think we freaked ourselves out a lot back then, though.
Looking back on it, I'm going to say probably 90% of everything that we thought we saw was probably us getting worked up and overactive imagination. But I can't explain what I saw that day. That's one time that I actually saw something with my own eyes that I can't explain.
Yeah, because there's not supposed to be anybody in the apartment.
Right.
Because they had removed her from the apartment. Now, like you said, could have been somebody cleaning or something. We don't know. But to our knowledge, there shouldn't have been nobody in there that day.
Right.
But it's never zero.
It's never
Hardly-
zero.
Hardly anything's ever zero. But I mean, who knows? I look at times back like then. The only time that I had experiences growing up that I couldn't explain were mostly in Daniel's house, but we had one night where in my house all the windows were raised, like all of them for whatever reason. My dad had raised all the windows, and then all of a sudden every one of them shut at the same time.
What?
Yeah. Every one of them shut at the same time. So that I couldn't explain. I can't explain it. I don't know.
How many windows are we talking about?
We're talking about 10.
And they all shut at the same time?
All of them shut at the same time. Me and Dad sat there and looked at each other and go, huh, how did that happen?
And there's really no way you can explain that. I mean,
I
because
never could. That's been something I have thought about for years. I don't know how that happened. being in Daniel's bedroom, hearing footsteps up and down the stairs when all of them were asleep, that freaked me out. I
will
didn't like
say-
that not one bit.
I will say when we were in high school, probably sophomore, junior year, and we were messing with them Ouija boards.
I was about to say that. I was
The
about to say that.
activity at my mom's house, which used to be my house, that's where I was living at the time. The activity at that house really amped up. I never saw anything. I always heard it, just like what Matt's saying. I heard footsteps walking up and down the steps. I heard I had a banister that the screws had come loose from the drywall. And if you pulled that banister back, it would kind of thump, 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 thump against the wall. You'd hear that all the time. Me and another buddy of mine was on the porch. We were carrying in groceries from my mom one day, and that was already, we had started referring to this thing as Casper. And so the door was locked, and we was waiting for my mom to get from the car to the front door. And I said, I was holding the groceries in both hands, and I said, "Hey, Casper, let us in." And I heard the door handle jiggle, and then the door was unlocked. Now I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I just heard it. I didn't see anything. I just heard it. There's all these stories like that started happening, and it was around the time we was messing with them Ouija boards. I had a fan, with just a normal box fan. You know, you plug it into the wall, you turn it on. That thing went on and off by itself all the time. And you might make the argument, well, you know, motor was overheating because it was 300 degrees in my bedroom. Yeah, that's true. It could have been the motor, but was it? For fact, don't know. But that thing turned on and off all the time.
Don't know.
Spooky stuff, man. Spooky stuff.
Weird
Hey,
stuff.
I think we will shut this one down, man. Brent,
Oh,
thanks.
no.
What? We got more.
No,
We got
no.
more. Let's hear it.
We got that favorite thing we was talking about doing at the end of the podcast that we wanted to do.
Hold on. Yeah, we'll crack on for real quick. Daniel, hold on. We got to do this. Favorite Halloween candy?
Favorite Halloween candy?
Yes.
All right. If I'm going chocolate, I'm going Snickers. Okay. But if I'm going just straight candy, I'm going to say a box of Nerds, man.
Nerds.
Great. Nerds.
Yeah.
You will never hear that answer ever again. Nerds for your favorite Halloween candy?
Yeah, man. Nerds was good, dude.
Who the hell? Why don't you just say celery?
What the hell?
No, Dad sounds like the guy that would like raisins in his Halloween.
Dates.
Man, forget y'all.
Dates.
Y'all.
Travis, what was your favorite candy? Or you just like it all?
I like Nerds and Reese's Pieces, so y'all can suck it.
God, nerds. Why the hell is nerds a big thing now?
Nerds is good.
Because they was a big thing back then. They tasted good. I can't, it's good.
Like,
I can't help it. I can't help you ain't got no flavor.
They just like having tiny hard things in their mouth.
That's why we're friends with you, Dusty.
Oh.
Did that go the way you
You're
thought it would
not
go?
denying
Did
that it
that go
was
the
in
way
your
you
mouth.
thought it would go?
Okay, Halloween candy
Probably
snobs.
Crunch.
Okay, Corky and Matt, what was y'all's?
I'm just Crunch. I love Crunch.
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 Oh, like a Nestle's Crunch.
Yeah, not nerds. Crunch.
Nestle's Crunch. Like, yeah, so good chocolate.
First off, let me say this. I like Nerds. I'm not saying Nerds ain't good. But if I'm not going to pick them as my favorite when I can pick like a Snickers bar or something like that.
I said Snickers for chocolate. If I'm for chocolate,
Daniel's got to compartmentalize everything. When you ask a favorite, he's going to compartmentalize it. Like multiple.
ADHD, man. I got to do this shit.
Hey,
He's got the ADHD, man.
Reese's Pieces. I'm going to go with that. How about that?
Pieces is good.
Yeah, it's pretty
What
good.
you got?
My favorite overall, Three Musketeers. That's been my favorite candy bar since I was a kid.
Can't go wrong.
Uh, I don't know if y'all remember my great uncle JC, that he used to stop by that little back when it was still a Gulf 76, and he would buy me a candy bar out of that every day.
You talking about right there on the highway?
Yeah, it used to be the old Gulf 76 across from Reedy's when it was still a Gulf.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mama used to go in there and get gas on credit, baby.
Yeah, I remember that place. You know what? They don't have old stores like that anymore.
Nah, you can't pull up and pay for your gas at the end of the week when you get paid no more.
No, you can't.
Or hand them a check and tell them to hold it till Friday.
Yeah.
Brent, what's your candy? What's your favorite?
A Reese's pumpkin.
What's that? Oh, that's like a Reese's Peak. Yeah,
Another thing Corky don't know.
I know what a Reese's pumpkin is.
They said, "What's that?"
I've never heard of that.
It's talking
What's
like
Reese's?
iced coffee or something like that. But
What's-
yeah, you get the Reese's cups that are shaped like a pumpkin, right?
Yes,
What
yes.
Reese's?
Yeah.
All right, Corky.
Yeah, let's spit some knowledge at me, Matt.
All right.
Did
Have you
I-
ever seen?
So get ready.
Because I know Travis, I know Dusty, and I know Daniel's seen it. Brent, maybe. If Brent has seen this before you, we're shunning your ass. So,
Just don't shun my front, baby. All right.
all right. So here it is. Have you ever seen the movie They Live?
No.
It had Rowdy Roddy Piper in it. He wore his glasses. that
Oh
was-
yeah, I've seen that. That's where he puts on the glasses and he can see the aliens.
Like
Yeah.
I just told him.
Chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of
I'm
bubble.
all out of gum.
Matt, who's the Key Grips cousin on that movie?
Elon Musk.
John Anderson.
All right, I got one.
Oh God, yeah, it's gonna be something nobody ever heard of. Go ahead though.
I bet you Travis has probably seen it, and I bet you Daniel and probably Dusty's seen it. But Matt, you may have seen it, but I'm saying you may not have.
The Sandlot.
No. Hey, The Stuff.
Is that wait a minute? That's that 1980s space.
No, that's the right stuff.
That's the right stuff. The stuff. Is it about kids going in space?
No.
Okay, I got nothing.
Has anybody seen The Stuff?
I've seen stuffing like out of a pillow,
Oh,
but I've never
man.
seen these stuff.
I saw a movie one time. It was called The Stuffing, but not not
No,
like
this
that.
is called The Stuff. It was where this white stuff started coming out of the ground and people started eating it. It turned them into zombies, man. Hey,
Oh, I missed that one.
I went to the movies and watched it. It came out in like 85 or 86. Look it up, man. It's a good movie.
Why is it that you only went to the movies and saw stuff that would like terrorize a kid at 5 years old? Like, was
Well,
they trying
see-
to get you to die from like being
Well,
scared
you know
to death or
what?
what?
Probably the only thing that occupied me and I'd sit still at is if I was in terror. You know what I'm saying?
They could have got you some nerds.
Yeah.
Look, I'll say this. Look
Say it.
up stuff. It's not a bad movie, man. I watched it just the other night. It's on Tubi or something like that.
It's so good that nobody watched it.
I promise you. Let me just call it up real quick. Let me.
Hang on.
Freaking
I got
rear
you, Corky.
end.
Hey, Corky,
got
I got you, man.
All right,
Yeah.
go for
The
Today.
it.
bite my ass. No, it. Scott Bloom, Michael Moriarty, Paul Sorvino, Garrett Morris.
I've heard of one of
People-
those people. Paul
I've heard
Sorvino
of two
was
of them.
Paul Sorvino was the guy in Goodfellas. He was Paulie.
Paul.
Yeah, that his
You don't know
daughter
about
ended up
that one
winning
either,
an
so don't be
actress.
talking about it.
I ain't
Uh,
seen
Garrett-
Goodfellas. No.
Garrett Morris was on Saturday Night Live. He was the token black guy. He ran the school for the deaf and hearing
Hey,
impaired.
hold on. We ain't gonna act like we didn't just hear you say I have never seen Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Scarface,
We're not going.
believe it or not.
Well,
You
look,
just
to hell with Scarface, okay? He talks about pelicans and quaaludes. I'm talking about Goodfellas, son.
I've not seen it. I'm sorry.
Oh my
man.
God, you've never seen Goodfellas.
No, I'm not in.
Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies.
You're not even good enough to be on the shit list, Corky.
I'm sorry.
Hey,
That
but
is
he's got stuff now. He's seen the stuff, boys. Leave him alone.
You,
He ain't seen the good stuff though.
you should go shun yourself right now for not seeing Goodfellas. Have you seen The Godfather? Have you seen The Godfather? Oh my God.
Dude, he don't watch nothing but the stuff.
You're killing me.
The terrible
I've
stuff.
seen The Godfather, Scarface. I've just never watched gangster movies, man.
But you ain't watched nothing.
I've not seen a lot of
I
stuff.
get on your level. I get on your level. Have you seen The Beastmaster?
Yeah.
Well, of course, who ain't seen Beastmaster? Everybody had TNT growing up.
That's what I'm saying.
TBS.
You got to get on his level.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
have
but
you
man,
seen the
look,
unedited? Have you seen the unedited version where?
I'll give this one to you guys. I should have seen the Godfather, Scarface, and what was that other one?
Good.
What you mean? What's the other one? The best one?
God, can't even remember it.
I should have seen those three movies.
Damn right you should have.
That's on me. But
What you mean?
guys
Well, I
should've
can't think of that other one, that other terrible movie that only got like 47 Oscar nominations. What was that? All right, guys, Goodfellas. That's it. Get
Yeah,
your
what
ass
was
out.
that one? Come on, what was that one? It's not the stuff. What was it?
hey, man, quit hating on the stuff. It's a good movie.
I'll watch it when you watch Goodfellas. How about that?
Hey, if I could find where to watch Goodfellas, I'll watch it because
It's on Netflix.
Okay,
It's
you want
Netflix. I'll watch
That's
it.
where I get the Blu-ray.
an obscure 80s movie that you ain't never heard of? I guarantee you,
Everybody streams.
Gremlins.
I'll stump you right now.
All right, let's
Gremlins.
go.
Blue Skies Again.
Never heard of it. What's it about?
It's a baseball movie.
It's a homoerotic film
No, it's
from
a
France.
baseball movie.
A paintball movie?
Baseball.
No, man, no.
Hey, Court,
Competitive paintball.
Look, I've
Cool.
seen Major League, baby. That's the only baseball movie I've ever watched. Field of
listen.
Dreams.
Durham. You got to see Bull Durham.
I've seen Bull Durham. I've seen that one.
All
All
right.
right, Corky, listen. There's this
The Natural-
movie that came out in '84. It's about this little thing that this guy buys in China.
Chinatown.
Brings it home to his son on Christmas as a present.
It's a mogwai. It's not a little thing. It's a mogwai.
Oh, he knows Gremlins.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
he
not-
just saw he
I'm
just saw the little thing.
Did you ever see Gremlins too?
No, I've not seen that. I did see
saw
it on the stream. Though. Is it any good?
No, it's terrible.
Good as the
Is it
first.
Terrible.
They had
Terrible.
like gremlins that like did different stuff. Like one was electricity, and it's called the New Batch. It's stupid.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
I actually seen that one on one of the streaming services the other night, and I didn't even know they made a Gremlins 2.
About 90 or 91, something like that.
Matt had the Nintendo game. He had the Nintendo game.
Gremlins 2, the Nintendo game?
Yes, there was a little gremlin. I remember you had to go around this corner, and there was a gremlin that was it was on like a balloon. The balloon was taking it around. You had to get past that gremlin.
Yeah, they tuned in, it's the Dude Bash rolling deep. Mic check like that, fine, let's hit a beat. Voices flowing like the river, knowledge on the spree. Every episode of Journey, come ride with me. Just hit play, it's a vibe, can't you see? The Dude Bash, we breaking it down. From the underground to the top of the town. Life's effects intertwined.